Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Backpack Trader Training Room for Thursday, August 24th, 2023. Please note the required risk disclosure. This room is for educational and information purposes only. It is not to be considered individual financial advice. Trading of this type carries substantial risks and should only be attempted with funds that you can afford to do without. All right. That will be all for that today. And good morning, Krista. Good morning, Miles. All right, crude oil. We've just 5 minutes or so ago gotten into a long trade, first trade of the day. This short was obviously way too early. Good morning, Pamela. So we're waiting to see if that will be a successful trade. Unleaded, getting the job done. 2 minutes after almost 3 minutes after 2:52, we pick up a long trade at 526. That hits target 1 at 568 and target 2 at 591. 42 or 65, depending on which or both you're using. And we trail out. Trailing stop is triggered at 553. So that is 27 ticks. So target 1 traders pick up 69 ticks, target 2 traders pick up 92. And a one and done session. So now we'll bring up the micro NQ for 4 minutes after market open. YM is in a long trade that is a get in sync candidate at the moment. Soybeans also in a short that's a get in sync candidate. This latest trade is the add-on trade right here. Soybeans is on counterpunch, and we do have the add-on trades turned on, so this would be our latest setup. The trade being tracked has already hit target 1, so that actually is off the table. Micro NQ sets up a short trade there as a possible first trade if we get to 8:34 Central, 9:34 Eastern. Micro NQ is traded out of Chicago, so the exchange time is Central Time US. We don't get in sync typically with the micro Russell, and that trade has hit its money management level and actually just went back up through its stop. So that trade is going to be off the table anyway. And the market is about to open. And the market did just open. Not likely to have been able to get into that YM trade. 6 seconds up to after our start time, up to 498 or so. Yeah, 497. So that's unlikely to be tradable. Micro NQ has lasted through target 1. Russell picks up a long trade also. 12 is 4. Then you have a long, yeah, okay, you should be in that. Well, no, it just stopped out actually. Even if you got into it, it just stopped out for a break even. So that's a break even trade. Probably in it on the second bar. And we now have a short. And that just triggered in. Gave a couple of chances. Our crude oil trade taking heat. Soybeans. Looks like we and crude stopping out. Not a nice start, but not unexpected on that setup. That was very possibly a reaction move, but certainly V reversals are not at all unheard of, which is one of the reasons that we work with those. Short trade on the YM. Should have been time to get into that. Money management on the YM. Another break even on the micro Russell. 506 for the YM stop, and it does stop out for a partial. Soybeans, looks like it probably did trigger into the short. So stops, actually, if you triggered into the short, you're still in it, because that would have made this stop and reverse a filtered trade against the trend indicator. And it's off the table now because we've hit money management. If you did get in that trade because you didn't get in the short, then you would have taken a break even on that trade, and you would be flat at this point. But if you got into the short and did that correctly, you would be short at this point. You would still be in this original short that I said was a get in sync, and we probably should have gotten in sync with it. Prior bar was 6 seconds. It pulled through the entry and was 16 seconds. So that's a 10-second long bar. Already 6 seconds into the session. All right, another short on the micro Russell. YM looking for its next trade. Soybeans taking some heat. Your stop is up here at 66 3/4. The micro Russell trade did trigger in. Pound Aussie with no trades. We're in our session on the micro NQ, but we're still in that trade that set up just before market open, actually. Still in that short. YM is currently flat. Soybeans is currently short. Crude pushing down hard still. 77.59 for the session low. Now we have a valid stop and reverse long at 66 flat. Money management on that trade would push up to 67.50 because of the stop and reverse adjustment. And coming down close to our entry again. Oscillating about around the 20 and 20 SMA and 50 EMA on soybeans. Seeming to find some support somewhere just up above the session open and the 200 EMA. Now crude with another reaction, it looks like. See how far this one goes. And the Russell with another break-even trade. So we have 3 break-evens on the Russell so far. Seems to be another noisy morning. 12-point momentum bar, or 12-point custom Renko bar, keeping the trade going in the micro NQ. But that trade was a bit too early. And now we have a new stop and reverse on soybeans at 66.25. And that will not affect the Another short setup on Micro Russell. There is our entry at 66.25. Money management and target one on our initial trade is still down at 60.75, 60 3/4, which is the trade we're still in. Russell definitely in this short trade, and it looks like the micro NQ may have just stopped out. 248 flat. Yes, it did. It hit the stop exactly. And there is soybeans triggering the stop and reverse, so we are long now and are looking for target one at 67 3/4. $62.25 to 66.25. Loss of 4 points. That'll be 16, or risk of 4 points. That'll be a 16-point loss. $64 ticks. Looks like we have target one on Micro Russell, but we need 14 ticks. So we need one more tick. Need to go down to get to 63.4, and there it is. So this will be at least another break even. I'm gonna have to get a crossover to the long side before we can get another trade on the Micro NQ. Crude in another long trade, watching other things and not going back to that. And a stop and reverse on crude, 77.62. Is a 19 tick risk. Actually, that's more than half, so that would be our two stop or two loss session halt. And Micro Russell with a fourth break even. And soybeans still unable to break out of that back and forth. Seems to be a very, very slow drift upward. And the YM with a long trade. Crude still in the long. Soybeans bouncing off the short, or bouncing off this long stop rather, at 62 1/4. That was where our original entry was on the original short. And crude does trigger short at 62. So that's going to bring us to 52 for our money management. And target 1 is at 51. And a long trade triggering in on the Russell. See if we can change our luck here. Get a YM through target 1. That's a 24 tick target 1. That's going to be a POQ because we did get a 1 tick break even on the first trade. Going through target 2, money management achieved on the Russell, so this will be at least a 5th trade. And now we have a stop and reverse at 83 to go back long again. That has not triggered yet. Unadjusted has triggered, so we're not in the long yet. And I believe we may, yep, target 3 on the Russell, so that is win number 1 on trade number 5. Still long on soybeans. Stop at 66.8 on the micro Russell trade. Stop at 549 on the YM. And we did stop and reverse to long. Actually, that's going to be an exit any way you play it, but stop and reverse to short actually would be the end of the session. So we'll wait for and wait another 10 minutes and try again. Noisy trending morning downtrend on crude, and now it's getting into consolidation. No success there this morning. All right, so Micro Russell trailing 66.9 now, having hit target 3. And soybeans with a very sideways morning. Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Mark. Keeping a close eye on markets because they have been lots of action this morning. Micro Russell starting to make a push for target 4. I believe we just hit it. Yes, target 4 at 70.3. Stop at 67.4. 557 for the stop on the YM. That is equal to target 1, so that would be a 24 tick win on the trailer as well. 2 ticks on our first trade, at least 48, and there hasn't moved yet, but it's, yeah, there it goes. 568. There's another 11 ticks. 68 flat on the Micro Russell. The third long, that would have been the 4th trade of the session, so that would certainly we wouldn't be in that trade. 589 for the YM. And we have a crossover now on the Micro NQ, or it looks like we're going to get a crossover on this bar. YM and the Dow and the Micro Russell both indicating a pretty strong upward move right now. 69.8 for the Russell stop, 594 for the YM stop, getting almost up to target 4. And we are back to our entry, back to the long entry on soybeans. Just our second trade on soybeans this morning, and a long trade on the Micro NQ. And that triggers in. That's a larger than usual normal trade. But if the Micro NQ follows the Micro Russell and the YM, that is certainly, it would be a positive. Gives us a good chance to at least get target 1 and make it a break-even trade. Still nothing on the pound Aussie today. YM stopped to 614. Micro Russell to 73.7. And not much movement on the micro NQ at this point. $6.34 for the YM stop. This is a nice big runner. $6.34 from the entry was $5.33, so 99 ticks. $74.2 on the Micro Russell. Soybeans attempting a breakout to the long side, but still not sure it's going to do it. It's at least going to have to get a slightly higher high, which has seemed to be the pattern. And 648, 659. 125 ticks now on the YM, on the trailer, along with the 24 ticks on our original target. Let's not forget those. 75.7 on the Micro Russell. Micro NQ beginning to make a move. Crude making a solid up move, pushing through the 200 EMA now. Soybean still trying to push up through its entry level. 66 and a quarter. It's gotten to 66 and a half. Hit 66. There's 66 and a half again. Just finding resistance right there. 77.7 on the Micro Russell. $10 a.m. crude session in process now. We'll look for a new trade here. And micro NQ pushing down. Micro Russell stops out at 77.7. Or is it 77.8? Let's see. 77.7. 693 on the YM. Stop and reverse to short. Stop and reverse signal on the micro NQ. I would take that at 203.5. Give it a full point. Now, soybeans got up to 67 flat and now is pulling back. So we got 3 ticks beyond our entry and we need 3 more to target. But now we're back in below 66. And the YM stops out at 699. So we have 165 ticks on that runner. So 189 on the trade and POQ on 2 trades. The short at 932.26 and then the long setting new session highs at 34.736. I wasn't watching the micro NQ, but I think that hit the stop before it hit the entry, so that is a valid. In fact, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it did. That's a valid trade, so we'll have to track that one manually. And we are in the short. So we get a loss from $216.5 down to 203.5. 13 points. So only a partial loss, but it looks like we might be in for a full loss on the. Yep, full loss then on the short. So that is 2 losses. Soybean showing us a big down move. Okay, crude stopped out of its prior trade, so looking for a new one there. Obviously not. Actually, we should be in for a long trade here. It'll be the trade off the 20 SMA, but very possibly a 20 SMA trade. Yeah, there it is. Long at 71, and it just hit the entry again, so we are in this. Trade number 1 of the 10 a.m. session. Money management at 78.85 and target at 87. And there's money management. Stop will come to 72. New short trade just triggered on the micro NQ. Trade number 3 with 2 losses in hand, unfortunately. Trade plan says we can take one more on the micro Russell. My inclination after that big 5th trade is take your winnings and come back to fight again tomorrow. Getting as high as 87. That is target 1. Stop at 72. Target 1 is worth 16 ticks. So that's going to help. That erases some of our 9 a.m. session loss. And of course, we did not get a short trade on the Russell because when the crossover happened, the setup would not have been below the 22 EMA, and that filters out the short trade. Soybean still not sure what it's going to do, and we have a winner on the NQ, target 2, and we've almost to target 3. We're trailing now at 178 flat. Target 2 is 167 flat. I'm sorry. Target 3 is target 2 is 167. Target 3 is 155, which is where our next target is. We've gotten as low as 56 3/4. And crude continuing to push up, trying for target 2. And not getting there, but stopping out at 83. So 12 ticks on the 12 ticks on the trailer, 16 on the target, 28 ticks, and a one and done session for the 10 a.m. crude session. Trade number 3 on the micro NQ is a strong winner, going through 3 targets already. Targets 2 and 3 executable. Stop at 172 1/4. Soybean still stuck in no man's land. Actually making bigger swings now. It got within 1 tick of its stop. Got down as low as 62.50 and came the last trip down to 62 3/4. This one to 63 flat so far. There's 60 and full stop out on soybeans. So we have a stop and reverse and a full stop, and we get a short trade at the full stop. And that should have been time to get in that. We'll see if we can push through that 200 EMA. I didn't notice that right away. If I had seen, actually, yeah, stop and reverse would be at the full stop, but I'd want to push that down at least a tick. I would want to say 61 3/4. If you're trading soybeans regularly, hopefully you saw that. 63.5 for the micro NQ stop, 163.5 for the micro NQ stop. And finally, we have our first setup on the pound Aussie this morning, and then we're going away from it. We close down, it will cancel the long setup. Pound Aussie with a long setup. Pound Aussie trade still in line. We closed above the balance line on that bar. Micro NQ target 4, stop to 151 3/4. And we do cancel the pound Aussie trade. All right, 42 3/4 on the micro NQ. Soybeans is flat at the moment. Potential long trade. And a potential short trade. Adjusted at 61 3/4. Somewhat often, it's not quite as often it gets this much sideways. It often is a very active market. Spotlight yes, Spotlight and Catapult are very different. Spotlight is a 3-bar setup, much more similar to Counterpunch, versus Catapult, which is a single bar setup. They're definitely very different strategies. Okay, and micro NQ stopping out at 136 3/4. Trade number 3. We can take one more loss or up to 3 more trades. Okay, soybeans is flat. Pound Aussie is flat. We actually have 4 charts still going. Well, three. I would say with the trade we just got on the micro Russell, I wouldn't bother with a 6th trade on that one. And as much as the market seems to be slowing down a bit, Here's an add-on short setup on soybeans. YM working around the moving averages, testing the 200, seeing if it can break through to the downside again. Potential short trade on M2 Micro Russell. Kind of watch this and see what happens. I wouldn't trade it, but it is actually part of the trade plan. And there it is. Triggers in. If I can move my marker lines, you can definitely have gotten the order in. Okay, this one is 14 ticks to the target, so if it gets to target 1, it's break even. 67.4. Micro NQ continuing to push down. Almost got a crossover, but not quite. On the Micro NQ. See where the lines came together right here, but it never crossed. Refresh that so they show red. I have it updating that on price change, so I have to be a little bit careful with it. Soybeans still flat. And it ends up being a full loss on Micro Russell. Good decision to stay out of the market, stay out of that one. That would have been your final trade anyway. First loss of the morning on the Micro Russell, although the first 4 trades were all break evens. And soybeans still sideways this morning, just oscillating around the 20 and the 50. I think it's time to step aside on soybeans today. It's going to break one way or the other, but don't know if it's going to sustain that given how little movement there's been since you're an hour in and it's basically gone nowhere. You have a stop and reverse and a full loss. And another long trade on the pound Aussie. $6.46. And triggering in. So the pound Aussie in its first trade of the morning at 10:30. But I'm not going to stick around to watch it. Micro NQ on a downward trajectory again, but no trades in the offering. So with that, soybeans triggered into the short. Punching through the 200 EMA. See if it's going to move away from the 200 meaningfully or not. Possibly getting a crossover on the micro NQ also. Mark up that pound Aussie trade. Nope. Another case of lines coming together and not separating to get the crossover. And soybeans back up above the 200 EMA. Looking like I may should have listened to my own suggestion in soybeans and stepped aside. All right, folks. Let's see. YM plan on catapult. Do you have the YM for catapult, Neil? Or catapult for the YM? Because if you do, there should be trade plan there on the E-mini, Catapult E-mini's owner site. If you have access to the YM module on that. If you can put it on the chart, you should have access. If you can put Catapult on a YM chart, you should have the Catapult YM. I'm not sure if I have a Catapult chart on here or not. I think okay, looks like I was starting to play with setting up a Renko bar on it, but I hadn't put anything on the chart. The 8-tick momentum bar, or the 14-tick momentum bar on the YM might not be a bad one to run on Catapult. Probably, well, Catapult being a single bar setup, you're going to want to set your targeting somewhat differently, but that would provide a fairly small risk because you're only going to have a probably about a 17-tick risk per trade per contract. Okay, a potential stop and reverse long coming on soybeans. 65.25, and we've now got the crossover. I'm not going away. I'm going to be available. I just have I'm not traveling this time for being dark on Tuesday. I have a medical procedure Tuesday morning, but I'll be back in here on Wednesday. So that Tuesday is the only day I'm going to be out next week. Let's see. Yeah, Monday I can get together on Monday. Let's see. I would say anytime after about 11 my time, which is what, anytime after 4 your time. Otherwise, Thursday of next week would probably be the time to do it. Or maybe even actually could do it this afternoon. Well, no, let's see, I have I need to go with my wife to a doctor appointment at 3:30. Now that would give us a couple hours after the CTM CEO Trader Mastermind session today. That's going to be what, 12:30 to 1, isn't it? And Troy just okay, Troy just moved that session to 2:30 today from 11:30, so in fact he just posted that just a minute ago. I could do that if you want. If you would like to, I can do that at 11. I'm not going to be able to make. I can stay in the 2:30 for a little while, but we can get together right after this if you like, Pamela. Unless you have, do you have something that you need to do this evening right now? Because I was just about to bring this one to a close. There's a long trade on both the Russell and the Micro NQ. And we did get the stop and reverse on soybeans. And it's gone away from us. So that was a market out. To keep you from the full loss. Coming back for a possible entry here. Actually, in this case, this is looking like an expanding range to me, and that's a very, very dangerous pattern to be in. So I'm gonna say step aside on soybeans, even though we've taken 3 losses this morning. Given the very much trending nature of the Micro NQ this morning, and I hesitate to get into a long here, and it did just stop out. So that would end the session anyway. So that brings them all to a close. All right, well, that brings them all to a close. So I believe see something. You're quite welcome, Robert. You have a good one. Everybody have a good weekend. And reminder, we will see you on Wednesday next week. I will be dark on Tuesday. Everyone have a good one.